Hi, my name is Alex with 8 Tech Tutorials, and today I'm going to be walking you through a Subtask 101. Everything you need to know about the mysterious, yet simple, subtask in Jira. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like if you get any value, and if you have any questions about anything that I cover in the video, let me know in the comments section below. Let's jump into an article where we're going to be looking at what exactly is a subtask in Jira. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to be dropping a link to this article, but this is at the Jira Software Clouds through Atlassian support. And we're just going to be talking about the subtask. The subtask is an interesting issue type. It is one that a lot of teams use. A lot of teams love subtasks, but for some reason Jira, or Atlassian I should say, doesn't really empower the subtask all too much. The subtasks actually kind of break a lot of stuff. And when I say break, I mainly mean by like Agile metrics and reporting. When you're looking at like a lot of burn down charts, when you're looking at things like your velocity reports, right? When you're talking about story points as well, anything that's at the subtask level usually doesn't get included, right? It usually isn't part of the overall system. And so by now, we've talked about stories and we've talked about tasks and we talked about bugs. And the last remaining item here is a subtask, which is really designed to be a child of any of those three main issue types. But if it's so broken, right? If it causes more headache than it's worth, why in the world do we have subtasks in Jira? And so the first thing that I want to preface you with is when you are back in Agile world, right? When you're just looking at Agile 101, you have your epic, you have your user story, and then you have your task. And the way I like to describe it to folks is your story, your user story, describes what needs to be built. The task in Agile describes to you how to build it. But if you remember from my last videos where I'm talking about and breaking down the issue types, you'll notice that, and you'll remember that in Jira at least, the story and the task are siblings. They are at the same hierarchy level. You can't nest them because they're siblings, right? And so subtasks is the answer to Agile's task. Subtask is synonymous with a task in Agile. And the subtask, that you can nest, that you can assign as a child of a story, that you can assign as a child of a task. And that subtask is really going to be the how, right? That's going to help you explain how that story, that task, or that bug is going to come to fruition, right? And so looking at Atlassian's description here is, a subtask can be created for an issue, either split the issue into smaller chunks or to allow various aspects of an issue to be assigned to different people. Now this is a pretty good thing. This is typically what I recommend teams to do, right? So in Jira, I recommend you start at the epic level, right? You want to start at the highest level and then decompose that into a bunch of stories that maybe different people in your team are responsible or they need to work collaboratively to bring that epic to fruition. But if you need to go a layer deeper, right? If that decomposition needs to be explicitly called out even in more detail, that's when subtasks come in, and that's when subtasks are going to be very beneficial to you because it helps you basically break your tasks or your stories down into even more granular work. Now, unfortunately, subtasks, that's where the buck ends. There is no subtask. You can't go any lower than that. And subtasks actually are like their own classification of an issue type. A subtask can never, ever, ever be by itself. And basically what that means is when I go to hit create in Jira, I can't actually create a subtask. It's just not possible. You have to create a subtask as a child of an existing issue. And you can actually create different types of subtasks. So we'll be talking about that in next week's video. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you drop a like, and I'll actually show you how to create like risks, how to create like other types of subtasks where if you want to always ensure that something that you're trying to capture, risk is a very popular one. If you're trying to always ensure that that risk is associated to some other effort, using it as a subtask type is going to work wonders for you because you're always going to ensure that whenever your team is capturing that subtask, that risk, it's always associated to something else. But anyways, coming back to the documentation, right? So if you find a subtask is holding up the resolution of an issue, you can convert the subtask to an issue. So that's really beneficial because it allows you to promote the subtask up. So if you're working on something and you're finding out, you know what, we thought that this was a subtask, this has ended up being its own independent work, we can actually bump it up and promote it. And I'll show you a demo again in the next video. When you're actually using subtasks in Jira and you're working in a sprint, you can't close the sprint until all your subtasks move to done. And so it again helps with accountability, or it helps add a bunch of headaches for your Scrum Master. But either way, it helps basically really more explicitly and granularly break down the work and encourage accountability so that every person has their own specific work that they're working on. And because it blocks the completion of the sprint, you kind of get a higher probability that your team's going to essentially actually complete their work. So anyways, that's pretty much it for this one. This was just a very quick, what is a subtask? When should I be using a subtask? And the easiest way, if you take anything away from this video, is know that your story, your task, and your bug in Jira explain what needs to get done. And your subtask is going to explain how. The easiest way to really explain this, and again, the way I like to tell my teams is, the subtask is more like a to-do list. It's more like a check, right? For you to say, well, these are the 5 things that I need to do so that I can finish this subtask. It's a little bit more personal to the developer. I wouldn't necessarily say that your Scrum Master or your product owner need to be fully aware of the subtasks, because these subtasks, again, are going to be a little bit more intimate to the actual minutia, right? The actual details of what are all the steps that I need to do as a developer, as the owner of this story, as the owner of this task. What do I need to do to bring this story or task to completion? So that's it for this video. If you found any value, hit subscribe. If you like the video, hit the like button. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I'd also like to know, how are you using subtasks? There's just so many different ways to use it. I'd love to hear, what are your complaints? What are your thoughts? What are your, confirmations? How do you like subtasks? Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next week's video. Bye.